With so many games pursuing so hard for creating experiences that reflect reality, fans of the medium have been getting more and more interactive environments that change according to the player's actions. Here are 14 such games that feature robust environment-altering systems. Death Stranding. Kojima Productions' latest Death Stranding might be light on the combat side of things, but in true Kojima fashion, the game is chock full of interactive environments. If players get caught by a BT, it causes a void out, which is just a fancy way of saying a big explosion. Of course, when you return back to that location, you'll find a crater that's a souvenir of your past missteps. Fracture. Day One Studios' sci-fi third-person shooter Fracture was released in 2008 and sees players using all the might of their arsenal to fight against the opposition. Players can make use of a variety of grenades, which, of course, have big changes with respect to the environment. For instance, you could lob a grenade that sucks all the enemies caught in its area of effect into a crater of sorts, or you can cause an elevation of the terrain which can then be used as a strategic cover point. Control. Control is a game about using the environment and the terrain to fight against supernatural enemies. Control has a great combat loop that should be experienced by both fans of terrain deformation as well as third-person shooters. Protagonist Jessie Faden can use her powers to pick up concrete from the floor or the walls, and either throw it at her enemies straight away or even create a shield of sorts to protect her from damage. This, of course, causes the pristine-looking environments to reflect the havoc that Faden causes while fighting. Portal series. Valve's Portal games are based around the uniquely creative concept of placing portals around the environment and solving puzzles. Both are excellent games, and both feature the same deformation of terrain when you place portals on either the floor and/or the walls, which then becomes the door to where the second portal is placed. Battlefield Bad Company 2. The Battlefield games are known for their large-scale multiplayer conflicts, which often involve loads of destruction and, of course, terrain deformation. And 2010's Battlefield Bad Company 2 is a prime example of this interactive gameplay. In addition to the destructible cover and buildings, players can essentially form holes in the ground using strong explosives like mortars, which will then make driving over this bumpy terrain an exercise in pain, which can be used as a strategic advantage of sorts. Red Faction Guerrilla. Volition's Red Faction series is also known for its excellent destruction mechanics, and Red Faction Guerrilla is also no different. The game sees players carrying out numerous missions on the surface of Mars, and you can use the game's assortment of weapons to bring down the biggest structures of concrete. Of course, what makes this game so special is its systemic destruction, as each object will have different resistances to damage, and players have to think where and how much to shoot in order to bring buildings down. SNOWRUNNER. SNOWRUNNER, as evident by its title, is a game about traveling and pushing back through thick snow-infested terrain. Players have to make cautious deliveries across treacherous terrains that most often involve swamps and snow in some capacity, which, when pushed against, leaves detailed tracks of tires on the snow. It's not the most innovative form of terrain deformation, but it does lend some realism to the whole simulation. MX vs ATV Reflex. MX vs ATV Reflex sees players duking it out against opponent racers in motorbikes and ATVs. There are a ton of dusty off-road tracks to show off your skills in, all of which have some great interactivity. Tires leave marks on crossing the terrain. Drifting sends a flurry of dust particles and leaves the trails of the tires on the ground. Falling on the ground also results in deformation of sorts. Again, it might not be the most creative, but works well in the context of the game regardless. Overpass. Another off-road racer on the list. Overpass is a game about overcoming the treacherous terrain and the obstacles it presents as quickly as possible. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, as evident from the game's mixed rating on Steam, but there's a great emphasis on terrain deformation, and of course, whatever you do, drifting, jumping, landing, and whatnot, leaves realistic trails on the surface. Red Dead Redemption 2. Rockstar Games' latest Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game with great scale and immaculate attention to detail. During the prologue, when players are confronted with snowy conditions, whenever you traverse on the terrain either by foot or by horse, it leaves a thick trail behind that slowly recovers when time passes on. Of course, walking on snow is a lot slower than walking on plain terrain, which is an altogether different challenge. Gears of War 5. Coalition's latest entry in the incredibly popular first-person franchise has many encounters set upon frozen lakes, with which players can interact in a rather spectacular fashion. Shooting the surface repeatedly will cause the ice to break, and if there's an enemy on top of the surface, it will, of course, be sent down drowning in the chilling water. Horizon Forbidden West. Guerrilla Games' Horizon Forbidden West is one of the most highly anticipated games of 2022, and while the game isn't out yet, we already have seen the game's terrain deformation in action during its gameplay trailer. When series protagonist Aloy fights the gigantic elephant boss, the sand particles can be seen flying around on impact when the boss's attacks hit the ground, resulting in impressive land deformation. It's easy to miss, and of course we don't know what else is in store, but from the looks, Horizon Forbidden West could easily be another great AAA game featuring robust terrain deformation. TEARDOWN. TEARDOWN is a game about carrying out heists in a fully open world with robust destruction mechanics. Developed by Tuxedo Labs, TEARDOWN is rendered in a voxel art style, and while it might look simplistic on the surface, players can destroy almost anything and everything with the right equipment. You can even use your environments to creatively take down your enemies, such as ramming opponents with heavy vehicles, shooting explosives, and the like. Off-Road Drive. Off-Road Drive is, well, an off-road racing game from 1C Entertainment. While the game might not have had the most stellar critical or commercial reception, it has some great interactive environments that react according to what and how you drive. Tires leave trails behind, and the trails can vary in depth depending on what terrain it is: rocky, wet, grassy, or dusty. Drifts also send dust particles flailing around the screen, which, of course, never gets old. That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Bolt.